Brenden Slaughter here for BeaversEdge.com, joined by Beavers Edge writer TJ Mathewson and Beavers Edge writer Ryan Harlan. The whole crew here today at Research Stadium as Oregon State wraps up part one of spring football here for March. They're going to break now for dead week and finals and pick back up with 3 more weeks in April. And guys, what a day, right? You couldn't ask
we didn't get a day like this last year.
No,
not in spring.
You could not have asked for a better Oregon day, and we saw a lot today. Obviously, we've all been at the practices so far, and the thing that stood out to me the most today, guys, is that it really seemed like today was a full, a lot of 11-on-11 work, not so much of the drills that we'd seen in those first couple practices. And it really seems like they kind of let loose. We'll obviously get into the nuts and bolts and make sure to check out our practice report at Beavers Edge. But TJ, let's go ahead and start with you. You're watching more of the offense today. What were some things that kind of stood out to you from that group?
Well, at least we got to see some tackling too, some true battles between the offensive and defensive line, which at least on the offensive side wouldn't exactly say they won it today.
Yeah.
They got some yards. Certainly the execution was lacking. A handful of turnovers, both through the air, a couple interceptions thrown, a number of fumbles on the ground, some miscommunications, some underthrows, some stuff like that. You're not expecting offense to be clean in the spring, but it certainly could have been cleaner the first time they've really set aside a whole practice to do live. From the situations you want to see from your quarterbacks, they did not execute what you wanted, no matter how many reps they've taken through live stuff. So I'd say that's the initial stuff. We'll have more of the exact details in our report, but primarily the rotation of Ben and Giovanni McCoy today, a little bit of Dom Montiel as well, but really sort of vanilla the offense. I will say one big takeaway that people are going to notice when they come to watch this offense this year, not throwing the ball very far, not as many deep shots. We spent the last few years talking about Jonathan Smith's offense and deep passing and how efficient are they going to be really attacking downfield. I don't know if we saw a pass today beyond 10 yards.
Right.
So,
and I think that kind of goes along with what we've reported so far, is that it really seems like this offense is going to feature more quick passes, right? And, we're talking to Trent Bray, just what we've been able to watch with our eyes these first couple, weeks through, is that they felt like the passing plays of previous, the ones that took a long time to develop, were maybe why the passing game was inconsistent. And we saw today a lot more, bubble screens kind of things, or, just getting it, out quickly to a running back or whatnot. And obviously, we'll talk about the details in our report, but Anthony Hankerson had a big day today, the Colorado transfer,
he's got a role on the team.
Famously, Deion Sanders tweeted, Oregon State's getting a good one. I think it was actually a dog, is the words Deion used. And so far, he has absolutely lived up to those expectations. I think he's going to be a nice surprise in that running back room. We'll get back into that a little bit more, but let's go ahead and shift over to defense. And Ryan, defense, we've kind of talked about it. It looks very similar to what we've seen under Coach Bray, but you made the great point of saying Coach Hayward's putting a nice little unique spin on it. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Coach Hayward is kind of going a little bit similar to what Bray had ran last year. There's a lot more pressures from the secondary as well, too. A bit of corners coming off the edge throughout the course of practice. Andre Jordan had a nice pressure on one rep, and just kind of throwing in some extra wrinkles a little bit there, bringing that NFL experience of being around the Raiders this past season and incorporating that now with the personnel that he has here at Oregon State.
Yeah, it really seems to me like there's been some defensive standouts, and obviously, there's been a lot of defensive changeover with, most of the defense being gone, but you still got guys like Jaden Robinson obviously back in the mix. But one of the guys that continues to stand out to me, and wrote about him, we're going to write about him again today, is Kobe Singleton.
Yeah, Kobe Singleton's flying around
everywhere,
making plays. Every time I see him on the field, he's always around the ball, and he's mainly taking the reps a lot with the twos, but I could see him potentially getting those first team reps here pretty soon, probably coming in next week for after they break here.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. I think he's kind of acclimating his way up the depth chart right now, and I really like what I've seen from him. And then obviously an issue and a question that's been posed to us at Beavers Edge is specifically the tackling, because TJ, you and I talked about it a little bit last year, is that you can use any different metric that you want, but the one that we have access to, Beavers Edge Pro Football Focus. And Pro Football Focus said there was not a worse tackling team in the country last year than Oregon State.
Yeah, and it checked out.
When you look
at it, we could see that here on the practice field. We could see it on the game field. We were watching games last week. Tackling not an issue today. And first time live tackling this spring today. They looked pretty good doing it.
Absolutely. And Ryan, I want to get your take on that, because you were watching the defense more closely today. It's new faces, right? A lot of guys that didn't get reps last year. And not to say that they're not talented already, just not so experienced, right? But it really seemed like tackling and wrapping up today, it went really well for the defense. There weren't a lot of missed tackles at all. That I mean, maybe one or two here or there, but not too many that I could pay attention to, and that's a really good sign.
Oh, definitely a great sign. Like you said, not a lot of missed tackles in particular there. And really, when those were missed tackles, it was just a great play from the receiver, tight end, or running back that defender was trying to wrap up.
Right.
Just not very sound, not a lot of missed tackles, which is something that a lot of fans should be excited about.
Definitely. And again, for the full breakdown of today, make sure to check out BeaversEdge.com, as we're going to have full rotations. We're going to have offensive nuggets, defensive nuggets, and a special report coming in from Beavers Edge contributor Ty Boyce as well. But again, just kind of final parting thoughts as we wrap up here. TJ, what are you most looking forward to in the second half? They've obviously, like we said, break for 2 weeks, come back, have 3 more weeks. Interestingly enough, I want to make sure to note this before we do. Trent Bray said they're hopeful to get Jabari Johnson back in April. We'll see. Yep. It could be a little bit of coach speak. Maybe, you know, it's hard to say. But again, at the quarterback position, that's who I really want to see, just because he comes in with such an impressive high school background. I want to see him play football.
Yeah, and if you look at the current set of the quarterback room, I mean, one thing I was noting the first practice, and Jabari contributes this, a little bit of a lack of size. And when you see it out here on the field, also a little bit lack of arm strength. Now, in this offense, not the pro offense, Ryan Gunderson's offense, might not need all that much. But, you know, Jabari Johnson, like you said, has played excellent in high school. So that would be an interesting thing to watch. Otherwise, we might have to wait until fall to get eyes on him. But I was thinking, if he has any chance to win this job, he'd certainly, playing well in the spring would be a really big help to get these extra weeks in. Thankfully, you know, this staff's going to go in and look at what they have in the quarterback room and have sort of a better evaluation of those guys as they come through. Like Giovanni McCoy too, he's probably going to play a little bit better. He's looked a little shaky. He's looked like he's adjusting to the speed of more of a power 4, power 5 level here at Oregon State. Stuff looks a little quick for him. He threw a bad interception behind the receiver today, not too far away from him, and it looks like stuff just speeding up on him a little bit. And you know, he's a highly touted guy. He comes with very high regard from Idaho, so you'd say, okay, well, we know you have the talent here. Now it's time to just let it click for you here in the second session.
Absolutely. And again, you know, with that, like I said, he did have one pretty standout play, and we'll make sure just to tease that a little bit, where he really showed off his athleticism today. So make sure to read out the full report from that. Ryan, switching over to you. We've already talked about the secondary. Kind of want to get your take on the front 7 particularly, because that's such a new group, right? You're talking, you know, an entirely new defensive line. You know, obviously Melvin Jordan played and a little bit last year to kind of close out the year, but new inside linebackers. You mentioned Aiden Sullivan, a transfer today. We've also, you know, seen the new Oregon transfer, Tavita Palme, who's played pretty well so far, but a lot of rotations, so many rotations on that front 7. What's kind of your take there heading into the second half?
A lot of rotation. I think they got a lot of guys where they could potentially rotate through and kind of do what a lot of like NFL defenses have done and rotate through the defensive line, keeping a set of fresh legs in there. They have guys that can go and get pressure in the backfield, like an Aiden Sullivan, like Takari Hickle, who was pretty much almost in the backfield every single play. And I think they got a nice solid group of individuals up front there, a little bit more of size and being able to get after that quarterback. Yeah,
it really does seem like, again, a little bit more size. We kind of knew that, obviously, with the additions of guys like Tavita, guys like Ty G. Hill, who we haven't called his name a ton, but he has made some plays throughout spring football, the LSU transfer. So more than anything, it really seems to us like the Beavers they obviously lost a lot, but it looks like defensively they kind of reloaded and have a little bit more athleticism and maybe even, you know, more better tacklers, so for lack of better terms. So we'll have to see how ultimately all that shakes out. But again, signing off here from Reser Stadium, big thanks to TJ Mathewson and Ryan Harlan for joining me on this video. Again, Oregon State will break for Dead Weekend Finals. They will resume practice April 4th. Make sure to stay locked to BeaversEdge.com.